Come with me if you want to live. Welcome to Primary Technology, the show about the tech news that matters. And today, I don't even have time for an intro because it is the big recap episode for WWDC. We're recording just a few hours after the keynote. I'm one of your hosts, Stephen Robles, but more importantly, Jason Aten, my trusty co-host, is coming at us live from the show floor. I've actually wanted to say it because it's half true. Jason is sitting in Apple Podcast Studios, and that's where I'm there in spirit, Jason.
Yeah.
How's it going there? You look very comfortable.
Actually, this is the most comfortable I've been since I got to California. One, because there's plenty of air conditioning in this room, which I thank you to all of you who are here, because that has been the highlight of this so far. So we're good.
Oh, my goodness. So you are there in person. You got to take a selfie with Zach Hall from 9 to 5. Hopefully he said hi on my behalf. I missed all the FOMO, missing it. But I want to know, Jason, this keynote, I felt like it was breakneck speed. Even sitting at home with all my monitors and keyboards trying to keep up. How did it feel there, like in the, not the room, I guess, you were in the open air area, right?
Yeah, and I mean, Craig Federighi talks so fast I could feel the breeze going by me. It was a very, very fast-paced WWDC. I thought last year was pretty fast-paced because they had to have enough time for the Vision Pro.
Right.
And they got to the point where I'm like, they did iOS 40 minutes ago. What are they even going to do? And then all of a sudden it makes sense because there's a lot of things to talk about. But
yeah, absolutely. So outside, very fast vibe. I want to talk about some of the highlights. We have our episode on Thursday, and so we'll go into more in depth. We have a shorter recap episode today, and so we're not going to cover obviously everything. There's no way to do it. But we want to talk about Apple Intelligence. I thought it'd be interesting to talk about what we didn't see, some things that both were rumored to not see and came true, and just some things I was expecting. But tell me, as you were watching the keynote live, which you're watching the video, right? There was no
We've
live
established that it's not a live. I mean, to be fair, Tim Cook always comes out at the beginning, and Craig Federighi, and he says good morning, and that's a highlight of the morning. But the rest of it, yes, it's a video. We've established that on previous episodes.
And during said video, were there any moments of audible gasps, big reactions? Was it Apple Intelligence? Any moments like that as you were there?
I mean, the calculator app honestly got a very big round of applause. I'm not even joking about that. People were very excited about that. And it is mostly a developer event. And so a lot of the times when they talk about and there will be an API for this thing, the developers get really excited. And I don't even know what they're excited about, but they're very excited about APIs.
There seems to be a lot of APIs, not only for Apple Intelligence, but Control Center on iPhone and a bunch of other things we'll get into. But yes, the calculator app, I've refused. I'm not going to spend minutes on the calculator app, but I will say that math app that you can get on iPad where you use the Apple Pencil to draw equations and it'll solve it.
Notes. Yeah.
Math Notes looks amazing. Does it actually solve the equations for you? Do I have to restrict this on my kid's iPad?
Yes, you write the equal sign, and then all of a sudden it just generates the answer for you. And you can go back and change one of the variables, and it'll just recalculate. It's I know, I kept thinking about my 12-year-old son, who I love my 12-year-old son, but he is a math nerd, and he is going to never put the iPad down. I'm not even kidding.
I mean, I guess it's a good thing to mess around with. Even the drawing of the graph from an equation and the little dial that appears. I mean, just wild stuff. I mean, hand it to Apple to actually get me interested in math again after 20 years of being out of high school.
It never occurred to me that I was going to have to put screen time restrictions on a calculator.
Right.
But I'm going to have to, or my son will never go to bed at night. You think I'm joking? I'm not.
No, I believe it. It's very exciting. So we want to talk about Apple Intelligence first, but a couple of things we didn't get. This is Mark Gurman from Bloomberg said this before the event that we weren't going to get hardware, and that did come to pass. No new hardware, no Macs, nothing like that. So we'll have to wait and see for Ultra, Mac Pro, Mac Studio, stuff like that. One of the big articles that came out before the event was Joanna Stern's screen time article on parental controls. I was hoping to see something, but correct me if I'm wrong. Again, it was going by very fast. No mention of screen time, I feel like, anywhere.
I didn't see it, and I've tried to look through these things, all the press releases and documents, but there's too many, Stephen. There's too much going on. I have not found it yet. Yeah, I will ask, but I have not found it yet.
I did go to the Apple website, iOS 18, overview page, where they actually add a little other features they didn't talk about in the keynote, but I did not find screen time anywhere, so nothing there. No third-party Apple Watch faces. I know every year we look for that, but that didn't happen. And I have to say, so the password app, this was one thing we actually got that I wanted. Our listeners in the community requested. I was excited for the standalone password app. Are you allowed to say where you were right before this? I mean, that was a public thing anyway.
Yeah, it was on the record. There was a Q&A with iJustine asking questions of John Gianandrea and Craig Federighi. So, yeah.
And any information that came out of that we didn't see in the keynote that...
They definitely talked about some of the interesting things related to the Apple Intelligence. They talked about how the difference between what Apple Intelligence is doing, and that is built entirely on Apple's models, versus the ChatGPT integration. So those are two separate things, if that wasn't clear. We'll probably get to that when we get to the Apple Intelligence stuff.
And the last thing that was not mentioned, which as we move into Apple Intelligence, this was Siri. Having a better Siri was one of the big hopes that AI-type features would bring. And the one device that most people interact with Siri that could be some consternation is HomePod. And I did not hear HomePod mentioned at any point in the keynote. I think I saw one. I think in the TV and home section, I think there was a HomePod somewhere, just in the corner of my eye. But, I mean, it doesn't have an M chip. It doesn't have the A17 Pro. So this HomePods can't run Apple Intelligence. I don't know. I'm not sure what's going to happen there, Jason.
I mean... this is early. Like, this is when they explain all the stuff. Who knows? There's a lot of hardware to introduce this year, Stephen. Maybe there's going to be a July home. I don't know. I have no idea. But it does seem like, yes, you're right. The thing that people buy to talk, like, people are going to want to talk to Siri now. Like, there's a good reason to do that. So it wouldn't surprise me if that's something that is, like, on that product. I hope that it's on the product roadmap because, yeah, like a couple of HomePod minis that can actually do that kind of stuff. Yeah, or where you could just, like, talk to your HomePod mini and do some of the things that Federici was doing, where it's like, explain to me how long it's going to take me to get to that play that my daughter's in. Just asking that kind of thing and having it tell you, and then it can say, do you want me to send those directions to your phone? Like, that's all stuff that just seems like it would be the logical next step. So
exactly. Well, so let's talk about Apple Intelligence. This was the big section at the end. Last year it was Apple Vision Pro. This year it was Apple Intelligence. And just so many features kind of packed into this. A lot of every year at WWDC, we talk about like things that are Sherlocked, meaning features that Apple has now built in that might obfuscate the need for third-party apps or whatever. But in this regard, I feel like the one big Sherlock is Grammarly. I feel like Grammarly, I don't know anybody who's going to pay for Grammarly after this because it's going to proofread for you.
I wrote down, I'm not kidding you, Stephen, I wrote down, Apple Sherlocked everything. Grammarly, a lot of things, and that's fine. Like, these are things that make sense to be built in to the core. The password app is another good example, like 1Password, all those things. Though, I mean, you've explained a couple of reasons why if you're using 1Password for secure notes or credit cards or those types of things, maybe they're still used. And we'll have to see some of the sharing stuff that's like really good in those types of apps. But like, I literally wrote that down, like Apple Sherlocked everything.
Apple Sherlocked everything. Very excited. They started by talking about like the privacy and security, of course, and said that much of the Apple Intelligence features are going to run on device, which then requires, they said, either an A17 Pro, which is the chip inside the iPhone 15 Pro or Pro Max, and an M series chip, which seems like relegates it to iPads and Macs with those chips. So if you have an iPhone regular 15 or a 14 and older, or you have a Mac still running an Intel, or an iPad on an A series chip, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like Apple Intelligence will not be available for your device.
Yeah, and that is something that John Gianandrea addressed in the Q&A that they did, talking about how these, so Apple developed a series of models that are running on device, and they take a massive amount of compute to do that. And the quote from him was that it's the amount of compute that provides that restriction. Like, that is the reason. And so you have to have the devices that are capable. And I don't know who it was. Somebody recently mentioned that one of the obvious reasons is RAM, right? Like, you have to have that amount of RAM. And I believe that the previous generation Pro phones only have 6 gigs of memory, whereas the new ones have 8, and all of the M series chips have at least 8. So that could be an obvious reason why. But that makes sense. That doesn't feel like the kind of thing where these things are just like gatekeep or locked because they want to just sell more iPhones. I mean, this is the kind of thing we know. Like, if you ever done, like, I run Whisper on this thing and it gets hot, and it's an M3 Max MacBook Pro. So I imagine doing this kind of stuff on your phone. It makes sense.
Well, and one of the parts of that initial privacy and security is the private cloud compute, which is this new, basically, data center part of Apple Intelligence where queries that are too processor intensive to run on device will run in the cloud, but it's quote unquote Apple's cloud, their private cloud, on servers running Apple Silicon. They didn't say the chip, as far as I know, right? Like
M2 series. They did say M2 something.
Okay, M2 series. So on Apple Silicon servers in a private way where your query or question, that data will not be tied to you, nor will it be sent outside of that. And so there will be a cloud component for those more processor intensive or more powerful queries. But as far as I could tell, I mean, security, privacy, it's all there. We'll talk about the ChatGPT integration in a second, which, also side note, did you see Sam Altman there? I think
I didn't see him here, but he was here.
he was here. Okay, I thought I saw someone posted a photo of Sam Altman there.
Yes.
Which no stage presence from Sam Altman or OpenAI. And I also thought it was interesting that Apple said ChatGPT integration, not necessarily OpenAI integration. It seems like
Right. They did. Yeah. From the keynote, they did not. I don't think, because I was paying very close attention to this, I do not believe that they said OpenAI at all. They just kept referring to ChatGPT. But in the news release, they made it clear where ChatGPT comes from. Right. Like,
Sure.
I don't think they're trying to hide it. I just think
No.
the thing that people know, that users know, is ChatGPT. The average person who has an iPhone and thinks ChatGPT is cool has probably never heard of OpenAI.
Right, exactly. So some of the features that Apple Intelligence is going to enable, and some of these are very exciting to me. Normal LLM style features that you would think of, like summarizing a long article or taking text that you've written in an email and rewording the tone to be more friendly, professional, or concise. You'll see all those options like in these little contextual menus. And this is the power of building these features into the operating system as a first party, which means wherever you select text, I imagine, you can get these kinds of options. And also the ability to even, create summaries from notes or whatever. But I was even more excited about like the image generation. So in some of these, like they showed this note, an Apple Notes, and there was a sketch of like a little building here. And you can literally circle a sketch that you have made and ask Apple Intelligence to create an image from that sketch. Or even better, if you haven't sketched anything, it'll use the content around that and generate the image for you. This was some of the iWork features I feel like we had talked about, being able to generate slides or images. I'm curious how this is going to integrate with Keynote, and how much can it generate? Can it generate full slides and all that? But these are the kind of, I think, useful features that AI in a first-party integration like this makes it worthwhile, right?
Yeah, and I think it makes sense if you look at it, because
Right.
they started with the things that already exist in the world. People like to play with, Dolly or those types of Midjourney,
Right.
those types of things to create images. And so those are the first step. They didn't talk at all about what you just described, which is like take this group of text and make me a slide. But you can see that progression coming down the road.
Right.
And you can imagine that that's a thing that has got to be on someone's roadmap, because you can do it with Copilot, right? So this is
Right.
already a feature that exists in the world. And it is, I kept thinking about like, these are things that in this scenario only Apple can do, because they control the hardware and the software. So they've got to nail all of those things. And when you look at something where, well, in Windows you can do this, I feel like that's got to be coming at some point in the future, because you've laid that groundwork, and now it's time for them, because I think the image generation is really interesting. And that's the kind of thing that like people like to play with, but where it really steps into a productivity. Like if you just look at like the image generation is limited to 3 different styles: sketch,
Right.
illustration, and animation. And that makes sense, because let's just be honest, I don't think Apple wants anything to do with like the weird fingers we saw in some of those like Sora videos or whatever.
No photorealistic.
Right.
anything.
And so,
None.
but there, I think like we're just seeing the very beginning of this, so it makes sense to me that some of those things don't exist yet, but I have to imagine they're coming.
Right. Some of the features I thought, I didn't even think about these kinds of integrations, is like in your mail list, Apple Intelligence will be able to, rather than just show you the first few lines of an email in that little preview area, then it'll show you a summary of the email. And it's like, that was a mind blown moment, because like that's the power of these LLM style features in the operating system of the device, where something like, rest in peace, Rabbit R1 or the Humane AI pin, like AI gadgets can't touch that kind of integration and usefulness. And even something like ChatGPT, where the app might be great for the iPhone, but there's no, like, you would have to have either, the Gmail app build it in, the Outlook app build it in, like it would have to be on the email server side for it to be like universal, whereas Apple just doing it in the stock mail app I think it's just awesome. And I think it might sway some people back to the stock mail app. I know some people kind of poo-poo it, but I use the stock mail app, and like I'm excited for these. You use stock mail. Oh, no, you use Spark.
I don't use the stock mail app at all, but I feel like they did solve a couple of the most obvious problems. There's still one missing, which is the share sheet, but they need more AI apparently to fix the share sheet. I don't know. But the categories is great. Like being able to separate out transactions, updates, newsletters, promotions, whatever those types of things were, and then your priority people. Like that's every third-party app offers that at this point. And so the fact that it's now available is great. And I actually just like the only article I've had time to write today is about like 5 things that were not AI that Apple announced. That, by the way, I know everyone's excited about the shiny new thing, but here's a couple of other really cool things. And the mail summaries, which I guess is technically AI, but it's like not a separate. It's not Siri. It's not that. But those summaries at the beginning of the mail messages, like if you think about it, the first line of most emails is useless.
Right, exactly.
It's not a helpful thing, and so having it actually just summarize that and give that to you in your inbox, I think that's really cool. And then the ability to open up a mail message and have it give you a summary at the top. Superhuman does that already. Spark does that already. I'm sure that other mail apps do that. But honestly, like I'm looking forward to trying the mail app and see like how these things actually work because, I mean, I like the stock mail app. It just didn't have these features, so.
Right. And also, this was wild to me. So I use focus modes all the time. And Apple Intelligence will be able to see, like, if someone sends you a text message and the content of the message is someone that is not typically allowed to contact you during that focus mode, it will still show you a notification because the content looks important. Maybe it's time sensitive. There's an actual time in the notification or a location, something time sensitive. That's just wild to me, being able to do all that. And again, privacy and security wise, any third party trying to do this on your phone, it doesn't have access. You know what I mean? Like the Humane AI pin, it couldn't see your text messages. So even that catch up feature, it just doesn't work. But this, your iPhone itself, it obviously sees your text messages. Being able to do this, I mean, super cool. I'm just very excited for all this stuff. So.
Steven, I know we have to stay focused on WWDC, but I just want to know, have you put your Humane AI pin in a bag of sand yet? So in case it explodes.
Listen, Jason, I'm at the existential crisis moment where, the egg charging case, I'm not even supposed to use because it might blow up. So I'm like, I don't even know what to do with that. But I'm like, do I reclaim this 2 square inch footprint on my nightstand and just take the Humane AI pin and its charger and then just put it in a drawer? I don't know what to do with it.
I don't think I'd put it in a drawer of a wooden thing because you just don't know what's gonna. I'm looking out for you, Steven.
Oh, you're saying it might just catch on fire?
I might just, yeah. I mean, they sent you an email saying it was a possibility.
That is true. They really did. So one of the things along again Apple Intelligence is like the image generation, which is going to be kind of all over the place. Not only do we have Genmoji, which I don't know, how do you feel about that name?
Well, I don't think you can call them emoji because that's a standard, right? So they had to have some kind of a different name. And I guess if a memoji is an emoji you create of yourself, then a Genmoji is one you generate using AI. It makes sense. Like, I'm not going to run around telling my kids, like, hey, that's a cool Genmoji you got there. Like, none of them are going to have phones that will run they all have iPhone SEs, so it's not going to work for them anyway. I just realized it's going to be a really expensive year, Steven.
Every youth is going to want Genmoji.
Yeah.
So, Jason, we have emoji, we have Animoji, right? We have Memoji, and now we have Genmoji. That's four Jojis.
Yeah, that feels like all the emojis that we need for sure.
I don't need any more emoji. Anyway, it's going to be a little confusing. But the image generation looks cool. There's also like image playgrounds where you can kind of set up, like, I guess, things you'll return to, subjects or styles that keep going back to. And I don't know why, but this kind of breaks my brain. But you can generate an image and just based on you, like have it look like you, but in a different style. Seeing this kind of AI generated image just in an iMessage conversation, like it kind of breaks my brain. Like this is Dolly. Like this is, I don't know. It feels.
Steven, what would your mom reply to you if you sent a picture of her wearing a cape? What would she do? Because my mom would take me out of her contacts. I'm not kidding. She would just be like...
She would say, don't come home for Thanksgiving. We're not doing it. I was surprised. My mom, she has iPhone, iPad, she uses all that kind of stuff. but she went to visit her brother and her nieces one time, and she was doing the Bitmoji, which is Bitmoji is, is like that Snapchat style one.
Yeah.
They did a bunch of Bitmoji. So honestly, I don't know. I think grandparents, I think this might be a big deal. Might be a big deal.
I think you might be right. Well, I mean, I heard recently that the two audiences that are most popular with like TikTok are like young teens and then our parents. So I feel like probably the same thing has got to be true with like Genmoji. It's people who like are up on the current thing, and then people who just have a lot of time to explore. Like, what does this button do on my phone? Oh wow!
Right.
I cannot believe the messages I'm going to be getting from my parents.
It's going to be wild. Now, Apple did add features that like matching what Google has done with like the removing of people in the background from your photos, so you can have that kind of stuff built in your Photos app. That's great. Cleanup is what they're calling it. Lots of Photos updates, which I'm excited for. Being able to just search for things like, show me pictures of Whitney in New York wearing this kind of clothing, and it'll just find it and find that frame in a video, which is pretty wild. But I think some of the most incredible stuff, Siri should get a lot smarter. But the one example that, my HomePod's listening now. Nope, sorry, you don't have Apple Intelligence. You can just turn off there.
You got to be quiet right now.
Yeah. But the one example that Craig Federighi talked about was like, let's say you get a meeting request via email in the afternoon, but you have to make it to your daughter's play that night. Well, you can literally ask your iPhone with Apple Intelligence, so your iPhone 15 Pro or newer, will this meeting, like, can I do this meeting and still make it to my daughter's play? And it will use things like, if you got sent an image of the program via text, it'll find the start time for the play using that part of the intelligence. It'll find the travel time from work to the school for the play, calculate that with when the meeting time is, and basically just give you an answer, which, I'll be honest, very shortcuts-esque, basically kind of sidestepping the whole need to create these elaborate shortcuts. And like, I think it's great because it'd be accessible to more people. If it's surfaceable easily, like if people just know to ask it, that seemed powerful to me, like real incredible.
Yeah. So I do have a question, and because this just occurred to me, Stephen, you can now ask Photos to find, you mentioned your wife, find pictures of her in New York City wearing whatever, the purple dress.
Yeah.
And if there are none, now you can just ask it to make one.
No, but it's cartoony. I can't get a photo.
But this explains, it's all making a lot more sense to me right now.
Oh, I see. That's how you do it. Okay.
It makes sense.
These are all very exciting. So it's going to be locked to the A17 Pro chip and M series chips, which I assume iPads, right? Like iPads with M series chips can do it. The also English only at launch. This is going to be English only, still beta. It'll have the beta tag even when it becomes available in the fall. And they said some of the features I think will be coming even farther into the future, which again, I hate to give it to him, but Mark Gurman, like, he kind of said all this, which is kind of wild, but yeah. So anyway.
Well, and in context, it does make sense, because if you watched Google I/O or even Microsoft's Surface event that they had before Microsoft Build, all of the Microsoft or Google was showing off things that they didn't even say when it's coming. It's like, we're going to do this someday, right? It's going to be a thing. We really promise, and then we won't kill it, right? So it makes sense. Like, this is a thing that is going to take some time, and I don't know that it's like, oh, someone's sitting there and they haven't written the code yet. It's like, we have to. This is like an incremental thing, and we'd like to see how things roll out, and like, because there's they're building their own server cloud thing that's going to be handling a lot of things, and that, like, scaling that, right? That's the other reason it almost makes sense that it's limited, even if it wasn't limited by the actual compute power. Right? There's 1.5 billion iOS devices somewhere in the universe. Like, I don't think
a lot of requests.
Yeah, I feel like limiting it to 150 million makes a lot of sense.
There'd be a lot of people generating images of their mom wearing a cape. You got to limit that stuff. You never know.
Right.
So I want to talk about the ChatGPT integration in a moment, but one question, I don't know if you know the answer to this. So on non-M devices, so like I have my iPad mini here, trusty iPad mini, which is not going to get Apple Intelligence. It's not quick enough. For something like these Safari summaries, this was announced in the macOS Sequoia section, where Safari Reader is going to get features like a highlight, where if you're on like a hotel website, but you just can't find the address, it'll surface that information right at the top. Or if you have a long article, it'll literally summarize it and give you a table of contents just right in Safari Reader, which is amazing. Those Safari Reader features, specifically summaries and highlights, those are not Apple Intelligence, correct? Like, you'll still be able to do those.
Well, I don't know if you'll still be able to do them. I haven't figured that part out yet, but you are right. And I do think that's an important distinction, right? For the first half of the keynote, there were a lot of things they referred to as machine learning, ML, whatever, that is separate. Those features are separate. Really, they are like some form of AI, Apple Intelligence, but they're not branded with that marketing term because they are features that are coming. Like, for example, in the Mail app, the categories, right? That's just a change to the Mail app. Doesn't matter which device that you have. So I do think that, like, and I was really interested in this, especially the highlights feature for Safari, because that is one of the killer apps, one of the killer uses for being able to pull up a web page and have it like give you that information just as a summary. And so I think that kind of thing will work even on your sad little iPad mini. I don't think Apple Intelligence is the first thing that needs to be upgraded on that, Stephen. Well,
that's the screen display would be nice. But anyway, I'm hoping the summaries and table of contents, it seemed like because it was announced prior to the Apple Intelligence section that those features are coming just to Safari in general on your non-M device. So that's what I'm hoping for. So we did finally, towards the end of the Apple Intelligence section, they talked about ChatGPT being integrated. It will be free to use if you want to connect your ChatGPT Plus account. Then you can access those, higher features if you want to do that, but you don't have to. And if you don't, ChatGPT is free to use. None of your data goes to ChatGPT when you use it. And it's going to be interesting to see when it pops up, because several of these screenshots and during the keynote, it's like, okay, if you want to generate a bedtime story, that'll call ChatGPT. Or if you're trying to do a recipe from certain things, then ChatGPT will be called on for that. So, but I couldn't tell if it's like more generative things, that's when it's going to call ChatGPT. Is there any kind of distinction that you could tell of like when that might show up?
Yeah, well, okay. So this was one of the things that they sort of talked about a little bit during their conversation this afternoon. And you have to think of the two things completely separately, right? So Apple Intelligence is built entirely on models that Apple built. And primarily those things are designed to run, like they have that 3 billion parameter model that will run on the phone. And that's the sort of thing, or on your Mac or whatever. That's like Apple Intelligence, and then for some tasks, when it needs other information, it'll go to the private cloud, right? That's Apple Intelligence, and that's completely separate from ChatGPT, right? So one of the things that they actually said is that, like, you can ask it to use ChatGPT, but it'll actually then ask you, did you want to send this photo with your request? Did you want to send this text with, because I think that they want very much to make it clear your stuff's going out into the wilderness, right? It's going out there. It's a scary world out there on the internet. We just want to make sure you know that we're sending your information somewhere that we don't they don't have the same kind of control over what happens on ChatGPT servers versus what's happening.
Well, but they do say, like even here in the newsroom article, the IP address is obscured. OpenAI won't store your requests, and so it seems like if you don't connect your ChatGPT account, like, not as much information is shared and or saved.
Yeah, but but you still might be sending an image somewhere that's not being handled on your own device, is all I'm trying to say. Like, if you're sending extra information with it, it's like it'll ask, do you really want to send this? It doesn't say do you really want to, but it's letting you know that you're now using ChatGPT instead of Apple Intelligence. Right,
and I saw in the keynote like many times it's like, do you want to do ChatGPT? And then once the result comes back, it's like, this is definitely ChatGPT. Don't make no mistake. It's very specific about that. But it's interesting. And Craig Federighi during the section also said that this is not going to be exclusive, that there's going to be other large language models and AI platforms integrated in the future, maybe things like Perplexity. I know it's another popular one. So it's not like this is a ChatGPT only. Like this could be, we'll get more in the future. I am curious. The recipe thing is funny because it's going to send the recipes to ChatGPT, like it can't do that on its own. But also the highlight feature, which pulls stuff from websites in Safari, they never showed a recipe example, and it had me a little worried because I'm like, recipes from a page is like the main deal that you would want the highlight thing. So I'm just curious how that will work with recipes.
Yeah,
We'll
and
have
I
to
don't
see.
know if this is a perfect way of delineating between the two because I have not had like any of the briefings that hopefully will answer some of these questions. But I think when you think about Apple Intelligence, that's focusing on your own personal information, right? Versus ChatGPT is they even I think Craig Federighi even said this at the beginning of that section, or I'm not sure who was actually it was Tim Cook at the time, where he talked about like world knowledge versus personal knowledge, right? So if you want to go out into the world and be like, make me up a story about a thing, right? That's not based on your information, and so it's going to send that information out like to ChatGPT, and so I think like that makes sense for recipes because unless you have a whole bunch of recipes and like that you've taken pictures of in photos, because if you did, you could just be like, what was that recipe for banana bread that we really, really liked that my sister-in-law texted me? And it would like Apple Intelligence should be able to find that for you. You shouldn't need ChatGPT. If you want a recipe that probably will put glue into your pizza, then that's when you go to ChatGPT. Well, that was Microsoft. Well, I don't know who. Yeah,
That was
Google. That was Google.
Yeah, that was Google. Well, but it does raise the question, or at least this is probably how they solved it. Like with hallucinations, if you do ask ChatGPT to tell me about Theodore Roosevelt or whatever, and it says, well, he invented the iPhone. Apple's basically like, that's what that big ChatGPT label is on the results. Because Apple's like, wasn't us. That was not us.
Right.
We didn't give you that information. So I'm excited to try all this stuff. We'll talk more about Apple Intelligence on Thursday's episode. I do want to touch on the other operating systems because that was just like the last 45 minutes of the keynote. We had everything from visionOS and iOS. So let's touch on some of the big ones there. And they did start with an Apple TV Plus like originals trailer.
Yeah.
I have to be honest, I was pretty hyped about that trailer. That was pretty exciting. I don't know. I'm excited.
I mean, I think I recognize a lot of people. I didn't recognize a lot of the shows. Not because we like Apple TV Plus.
Severance.
We just don't have time. We have 4 children, Stephen. And they all do things all the time.
Sit down with the kids and watch a nice.
Severance? Sure.
I was going to say a nice, wholesome, easy show like Severance. You don't have to have any conversations.
We can't even watch Shrinking with our kids. Come on.
Yeah, that is
which we
bad.
loved. That was the last show that we went all the way through, and we just I'm kind of glad we didn't watch it when it came out because we were able to basically binge it at our own pace, and we basically finished it in 10 days because there was 10 episodes or whatever.
I do need VidAngel for Shrinking. Which just a side note, I know VidAngel is something I talk about on movies on the side, but VidAngel is a service where you you can mute curse words or cut certain content out of movies or whatever, even via streaming services, which really only works with Amazon Prime when you buy a movie. But anyway, we watched The Terminator last night, Jason.
The original, the OG Terminator?
The OG Terminator. Special effects do not hold up. Neither does the makeup, let me just say. But I've only seen that movie, I guess, on TV, like when I was younger. Using VidAngel, the first 10 minutes of the movie, silent. You just hear nothing. You just it's people reacting to like Arnold Schwarzenegger, like lightning bolting from time in the thing, and it's just totally silent. I just thought that was hilarious. But
yeah,
anyway.
but I mean, some of those shows that are really good on Apple TV Plus, like Shrinking, you can't watch it. There's no point. Harrison Ford is not funny if he doesn't say the things that he says. So
that, and also you would hear none of the dialogue, which is kind of important for Shrinking. So, but Silo coming up, and there's shows with like Brad Pitt and George Clooney.
The Wolves, yeah.
The Wolves, so very, very exciting stuff. That was cool. But let's talk about visionOS 2.0 actually took the stage first. There was, usually iOS opens the show, but we got visionOS 2.0 already, which is pretty cool. The ability to make spatial photos from your 2D photos, so it's going to use, this. In this part of the keynote, they said machine learning.
Right.
They saved the AI stuff till later, but they said machine learning, and it'll be able to make, photos into 3D, which is pretty cool. Redesigned Photos app. New gestures, which I was actually grateful for. You'll be able to go home just by kind of holding your palm up and tapping, which I think it's welcome. Rather than tapping the digital crown. You use Vision Pro every day.
I use it every day. You're so excited about this. I'm like, when is the last time you even charged your Vision Pro, Stephen?
I watched, it was over the weekend. I watched something over the weekend in it.
Dune? Did you watch Dune again in your Vision Pro?
No, I went back and watched some Marvel scenes in it.
I do think that the spatial photos from 2D photos, that's amazing. I think
cool.
that's the kind. Remember how I told you that the thing I really liked the most about using the Vision Pro was the panoramas, right?
Yeah,
because they're personal and it's experiences that you had, but the ability to do that, I think that will be just amazing. I wrote that down, and I also wrote down the improvement to the Mac virtual display. Everyone was hoping that they'd give you 2 displays, and they kind of did. They just made them one wraparound display that it's basically the equivalent of 2 4K. Honestly, I think that's better. Right?
Yeah, I think so too.
You know why? Because when I sit at a desk with 2 studio displays, the thing I keep thinking about is I'm just staring the entire time at the seam in between them, and I'm like, so then I have to like move one of them, and then it's like I have this weird battleship thing going on. But being able to just have that, like, yeah, I'm going to put the beta on the Vision Pro as soon as I get home, no question.
You know what? I should probably just do that.
Yeah.
Because it's not a mission critical device.
You're not actually using it, Steven. It's going to be fine.
I think I'm going to do it. Yeah, because actually the Mac display stuff got me excited because higher resolutions.
Yep.
And the ultra wide, which shout out to former co-host William Gallagher. He already
That's
used
what I was thinking is William. Yep.
William had a 50-inch ultra wide display. Now he's probably going to get Vision Pro just to do this, so he can have this wrap around thing. But no, the Mac display stuff was actually pretty exciting. I'm excited to try that. Also, I don't think this was mentioned in the keynote, but you will be able to customize your home view, Jason. You'll be able to move around. Yes, it's right here. visionOS 2. You'll be able
How
to
did they not say that? Because no one would have heard anything else that they said if you would have told us finally that we could do that.
Well, I think because John Syracuse would have groaned from the audience because he doesn't like just moving icons on his phone to have to do this.
I don't think he even has the Vision Pro. It's fine. He can.
No, he doesn't.
Customize your home view. You're right.
Yeah, it's right there.
There's jiggle mode on the Vision Pro. I cannot believe that they didn't tell us about this.
Jiggle mode on the Vision Pro. You'll be able to move your icons around. And then, yeah, look at that. It's just magical. So that's exciting. I'm excited for that.
And it looks like you can put compatible apps in the home view. They get out of purgatory. They don't have to go into iPad app jail anymore. They can be actually on there. I'm so excited.
You can finally put Slack on your Vision Pro like you've always been wanting.
I put Slack on there. Opened it once, logged in, and then I took it off.
Yeah. Honestly, I did the exact same thing. I opened up Slack and I was like, oh, I never want to see Slack this big.
Nope.
Go away.
You know how I use Slack in the Vision Pro? On my iPhone. I just look at my phone. I'm like, oh, look, I have a Slack notification.
Which, can I just say, we'll get to macOS in a second. macOS got the iPhone continuity feature where you can use your iPhone on your Mac and just click around like using your phone. Why did they not do that to Vision Pro? That's where we need it. I need to be able to use my iPhone in Vision Pro because I can't see the screen because it won't do Face ID.
The Face ID thing is kind of weird, especially because you can do your phone should unlock with your watch, but it must not be able to see enough of your face to trigger whatever that feature is.
Here's the thing, Jason. This is a very personal thing. I charge my watch at night before I go to sleep, and the only time I use Apple Vision Pro is also at night while my watch is charging. So my watch can't unlock my phone. And so when I have Vision Pro on and I'm trying to look at a text, it's impossible.
You don't remember your passcode? Is that what you're saying?
You can't. Well, it's very dark in the bedroom, and I can't. It's so fuzzy, I can't see anything. The noise is out of control.
Yeah.
But
the Era 300s are really just overpowering everything.
That's it. But supposedly you can use the Apple Vision Pro now as an AirPlay destination, so you'll be able to AirPlay from like your iPhone or iPad to Apple Vision Pro, which I guess might be useful for Netflix. So you can like AirPlay your Netflix to your Apple Vision Pro, and maybe even be able to screen mirror. But that would be maddening if I could screen mirror to Apple Vision Pro my iPhone, but not interact with it in Apple Vision Pro. Like it'll just be.
I don't think you're going to be able to share play or whatever you just said, Netflix or whatever, because of the DRM type stuff. But think about continuity is one of the best benefits of being a part of an ecosystem like this.
Right.
Like the continuity, like the universal clipboard, universal control, like the continuity camera, and now being able to do those, like the mirroring of your phone onto your Mac. Like that stuff is just like, it feels like voodoo magic, but also it's like it should just do, everything should do this. Like when I pick up the Android phone that I use occasionally, I'm just like, what is wrong with you? Why do you not? Why can't you behave and do all these things? I just don't understand. Yeah, it's amazing. So
yeah, it's mirror content. So that's interesting into Apple Vision Pro. Also, you'll be able to use a mouse and Bluetooth devices with Apple Vision Pro, not just the Magic Trackpad. So there you go.
Nice.
You'll be able to use your Magic Mouse and do stuff there. So yeah, that's Apple Vision Pro. Also, they said they added train support, which I actually have used mine on a train. I don't understand what it couldn't do before.
Well, I think the thing was that if you're sitting on a seat on a train, that you'd put a window somewhere. Didn't you see the Casey Neistat video where he's on the subway and he put a video, and then it's just like the train started moving and the thing started just like flew away from him.
Travel mode stops that anyway. Like it stopped it for me. I was on a train and I did it. So yeah, I don't know anyway. All right, I'm gonna put the beta on my Apple Vision Pro, Jason. I'm gonna do it. That's the one main device.
What is it gonna hurt? Like, I mean,
Dune 2 might freeze while I'm watching it. I don't know.
I don't
I've
know.
watched
It's still
it
not
5
going to catch
times already.
fire. It'll be fine. It's still
That's true.
You're still in a better situation than the AI pin.
It won't catch fire. All right, we got iOS. I at least want to hit macOS too. So iOS 18, bunch of features coming. I was surprised they did this. The home screen, I'm not surprised at the app thing. You'll be able to put app icons wherever you want. That's a long time coming. But the tinting of the apps. So not only will we be able to move icons wherever you want, but if you want to tint all your apps a single color, it will just do that. And not just the first-party apps either. I think it'll just do it to all the third-party apps on your phone as well. And you can have basically all those like icon packs that people make. Like Apple just Sherlocked it all. You could just do it all there.
Yep.
Wow.
No, I mean, this just makes sense that all of this stuff, like, people, that's the thing, people, like, widgets, right? The whole reason Widgetsmith became a thing is people want to be able to do stuff to their home screen. And, I mean, I'm glad they finally did this stuff. I don't know why it took this long, but, like, yes. And these were all things that people were predicting. And people, it's amazing to me when people hear the rumors, whatever, and they're like, no, Apple's never going to make it so you can tint all the apps. And then they're just like, see, now you can tint all the apps. And it's just like, and it just seems as obvious as can be once they actually do it. So
you're going to have to tell me if you actually do this. So here's actually my test iPhone with iOS 18. I just tinted all my apps. There it is, all tinted. And, I'm curious. I don't know if I'm going to be tinting them. I kind of like the non-tinted.
Okay, but do you have a kid? I mean, I know you have kids.
I have 3 kids.
I've sent you photos of my oldest daughter. First of all, she has no icons on her home screen. They're all like widgets or shortcuts. There's something that open them. So they're literally just solid color. Oh, whatever squircles or whatever, and you have no idea what anything is, and they're all like designed to be aesthetic, not practical or useful. And I just asked her, I'm like, how do you know how to open apps? And she kind of remembers where things are. She's like, or I just pulled on and I search. I'm like, then what do you even have? Why do you have any of these things on your home screen? Because it looks really good. I promise she'll be tinting her apps immediately.
Well, I'll play around with it. You can change the color, and you can change, like I'm in the customized thing now. You can also change the light and dark mode. Even Apple's first-party apps will actually have a dark mode. That's pretty cool. Yeah. They actually look good, so that's fun. Also, iOS 18, you'll be able to do things like lock and hide apps behind Face ID. So, locking photos, Snapchat, whatever. Control Center gets a big update. And not only is it redesigned and have multiple pages for Control Center, but third-party apps will be able to put controls in Control Center. This is a first for that.
Yeah.
Huge deal. Huge win for Control Center. I'm excited about that.
I mean, I don't really ever use Control Center except for to turn on the lights in my office, but that's it, or to change the volume. But I understand why you're excited. You're very excited.
Wow. You don't use it to start playing your podcast again?
Never.
Really?
I have a widget on the home screen.
I do have a widget for that, actually.
Or if I pull down my phone's locked, it has a, what do they call those things? And live activity. There you go.
Yeah, the live activity. Yeah, that is true. I am curious how one of the things, like the AirPlay situation sometimes with Control Center is a little wonky, like trying to figure out, like, what am I AirPlaying to or Control? Oh, I think I just found a bug. Anyway, I'll report that. I went into jiggle mode in Control Center, but now nothing's happened. Like, I can't get out of jiggle mode. I'll just turn it off. Turn it off on again. Oh, and our community actually requested this. We talked about it last week. You'll be able to swap out those lock screen controls.
Yeah, I cannot believe, Steven, I would have bet everything that was not going to happen. I think I was wrong. Whoever you said that, yes. I was wrong. They
did it. You can take away the flashlight or the camera icon and put your own controls. Wild.
That's
Big
amazing.
Photos redesign, the entire library. The one feature I was excited to hear, you can just hide screenshots.
Yeah,
that's all I needed.
Yep, exactly. That's table stakes at this point, because if you no one cares about you take them because you need to remember something later. The problem is most people forget to delete them, but you don't want to look at them when you're scrolling through like your trip to Alaska, and all of a sudden it's like screenshots of random stuff. So it's awesome.
Yeah, and also huge updates to messages. You'll be able to bold, italicize, and strike through, which is fun. I actually just texted you before we recorded something, and I put asterisks around the word because I was trying to emphasize it. I'm like, I'll be able to bold this pretty soon.
Yes.
Just bold, strike through. You do tap backs with emojis, and not Genmojis, just emojis. I don't know what anything is.
I can't remember, but you can do like stickers and tap backs now, and emojis and stuff.
Right. Schedule send. This was a big request from our community too. Schedule messages to send later. I didn't think that was going to happen.
Listen, Apple is the only instance of scheduled to send that I will ever trust. Because there's no scenario where I will schedule an email or a Slack message. I won't even schedule articles. I will just get up and push publish. Forget it.
See, I schedule emails. I've scheduled emails in Gmail, and they're fine.
Nope.
YouTube.
Not once.
I've scheduled YouTube videos. Those are fine.
All right.
RCS.
YouTube's CMS is probably okay, but I don't make YouTube videos. This is the only
basically
YouTube video
I've
I
done
make.
a lot of it with Google. I've scheduled Gmails and YouTube videos. So I guess I trust Google's scheduling system.
Yeah.
But I'll trust Apple's too. We didn't get actual snooze though. I was a little disappointed. Like if you snooze an email, it doesn't disappear from the inbox. Yeah. We did get RCS, so rich communication will be coming with iOS 18. Still green bubbles, hilariously. Yep. so sorry, yeah, still green. We got the mail updates we kind of talked about. This grouping of messages seems pretty cool too. So if you get multiple emails from like United about an upcoming trip, you get a nice little like designed page basically where it'll summarize all the stuff for you. That's super cool. With all that you travel, that's probably going to be really useful.
Yeah, I mean yes, but I mean I just use Flighty for all of that stuff, so I don't even. True. And not even like in it. Honestly, I fly Delta, and Flighty almost always tells me when my flight is delayed before Delta does. Like, I don't understand how it knows, but it'll tell me, and then like 15 minutes later, Delta. I've walked up to the counter at airports before and been like, my phone just told me that this flight's going to be moved to a different gate, and the person at the counter has no idea. And then 6 minutes later, sorry folks, we have to move this flight to a new gate, and I'm like. What are we even doing? Listen, how is it possible? Where did they get the information from if not you?
I don't know how Flighty does it. That is some Apple intelligence behind the scenes.
Yeah, absolutely.
We also got this is on the iOS 18 preview page. It shows the highlights for Safari, like pulling the address from a website, and this does not seem to be attached to Apple Intelligence. Just throwing that out there. Same with like the summary and table of contents. So again, I have not seen it on the 5 seconds that I've used iOS 18 on this iPhone, so we'll have to see. I imagine that's coming. We got the Passwords app. The Maps update, which is topography and hiking. Apple loves hikers.
Yes.
Apple and hikers are like this. I don't know. Maybe there's a bunch of the VPs that hike. A bunch of like Apple Pay stuff, which I wasn't. The tap to cash, I understood. If you want to send somebody money like in person but not share your email or phone number, now you can do that. But then they also said something like Apple Pay Online or something, or Apple Cash Online. Did you catch that?
Third-party browsers will now support Apple Pay Online.
Oh, okay. Well, that's great. Okay, I didn't catch that from that.
I think it was in one of those bento box things. This is what I do at a live event like this. I write furiously, and then I take pictures of the bento box. And
the bento box is what you need.
That's what you need. Okay, hold on. We have 10 minutes left.
Okay,
There's
10 minutes
no
left.
way we're going to make it through everything.
No.
So we should pick the things that we're most impressed about the other OSs, because I have one for watchOS for sure, and I have one for AirPods. Okay. I don't care about macOS, so you have to have some favorites for that one. I do. I'm just kidding.
Well, the macOS thing, it's ironic because Apple basically just announces features on one of the operating systems, even though the feature is everywhere.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
The Messages features go with iOS, but are also available on iPad and Mac. So I totally get it. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's go back and forth. We'll call this the lightning round.
All right. Good.
So for me, I'll mention a bento box that they did not talk about this, but in the audio and home section, in the bento box, it showed robot vacuums are coming, native support for robot vacuums to Apple Home, and guest access for Apple Home, which I was very excited about, meaning you'll be able to allow, let me share the screen. This is on the iOS 18 preview page because again, it's everywhere. But basically, you'll be able to set a certain guest schedule where the front door, garage door, whatever, you can create schedules for guests to use. Then you send, I assume, like an invite or a link, and they can use just the accessories that you specify at the time that you specify. Huge deal. This is really needed. So guest mode is a big deal, and also express mode, where if you don't even want to, if you're holding groceries and you can't tap your Apple Watch to unlock your door, you can just walk up to it, and the near field, whatever, will unlock it. So audio and home had some good things in that bento box. I'll say that. All right, you go.
Mine is the Apple Watch Translate app, which I just think is awesome. I think that's such a great place to put that app to be able to use the translate on your watch, because like that's so much more useful than if you have to pull out your phone. I mean, it's not like it's hard to pull out your phone, but like that is, I've told you before that in my mind, the Apple Watch, maybe it's just because the battery life, I haven't charged my Apple Watch Ultra 2 since I left my house yesterday, and it's still at like,
it's amazing.
I just checked, 54%. It's doing fine. It's like this thing, I mean, what is your Humane AI pin at? If you added the Humane AI pin and the Rabbit R1 together, it would not be 54% of this thing, right? I just want to be clear about that. They would not even last to the end of this podcast, and we only have 8 minutes left. So anyway, I just think having it on the watch, that is where those things are really, really the killer app. And having live activities in the Smart Stack. Like finally a good use for the Smart Stack is those live activities. Okay, that was my watch one I wanted to mention.
Okay, well, I'll do another lightning round. This was another audio and home, which was tvOS 18 is going to have a new feature called Insight, where when you're watching a show or a movie, you can bring out, just tap the remote. It'll show you what actors, the cast that are on screen at the time that you're watching. And if there's a song playing in the background of a movie or TV show, it will show the song and the album artwork right there on your Apple TV, and you can tap the plus button to add that song to your Apple Music library. That is ecosystem with a capital E, Jason.
Yeah, I didn't write down a single thing from that section because I didn't really care, and so I was trying to catch up on my. Oh wait, I did write down the Apple TV captions thing. Yes, I did actually write that piece down.
Yeah, if you
and the Snoopy screensaver.
Get out of
somebody
here.
loves. There's a Snoopy watch face now. There's the Snoopy screensaver. Okay, my next lightning round one is the AirPods shake your head or nod your head feature to to Siri will be like, "Do you want to answer this call?" And you can just shake your head no. That's like. I like that kind of thing because it's like that. It's one of those. It just works. That's what you should be able to do. You shouldn't have to say to Siri, "Nope," or like you should just be able to interact with it. So yeah.
And I'll do another lightning round with Apple Intelligence. And I don't know if this is just Apple Intelligence, but you'll be able to double tap on the bottom of your iPhone to type to Siri, so you don't have to talk to Siri on your phone.
Yep.
I'm excited about that. All right, you go.
That's a good one. Okay, you didn't want to talk about the calculator on the iPad, so we'll skip that one. But the Smart Script. I think that's really cool that you can be writing and it will like learn your handwriting, so that way if you copy paste, like if you paste text that you copied that was actual like
type,
computer type, yeah, exactly, it'll turn that into your handwriting, and I think that's really cool. I don't spend a lot of time writing with my Apple Pencil on my iPad, but honestly, maybe I would because they did add a lot of features to that, like the ability to just like move stuff over or to erase it. Like they gave a little bit of love to that. So
yeah, that was cool. I'll say the Journal app didn't get a lot of updates. Like we didn't get import-export features or like a calendar view, but we at least now have search. So you can search your journal entries, and that's a big step forward. I tried search real quick on this test device, and like you couldn't search for a date. You had to search for like a word in the entry or the title or like a place, but at least we have search. So thumbs up for that.
Okay, so I have a question and not a lightning round. I want to know from you, did they fix Siri? Like, where does it now rank compared to the other, voice assistants? Like,
yeah.
Has it made it out of the wherever it has been relegated for the last couple of years?
I think only time will tell. I mean, it's the excitement about it is there. I feel like immediately Siri, it will invoke excitement, like to try it. Like, let me see if it can do this thing. That initial experience, I think, is going to have a big part of like coloring how people feel about Siri going forward. Like, can it do the request? Just do it, Apple Intelligence wise, or what? But what about you? I mean, are you excited about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it will. The things that it's talking about doing are exactly what we want. First of all, understand me, please. Typing to Siri, that's great, because there are a lot of times when I would love to use Siri, but I'm in a situation where talking to my phone doesn't necessarily make sense. But if I could just be like, create a reminder to do this, or tell, without having to open an app or go into these different things, just being able to tell Siri to do that. I actually really like the new animation where it glows around the outside of the screen. I think that's really cool. And they gave it like a different icon. Like, is that actually an icon that you can see now? Did you see in the like every time they showed it, it had a completely different icon. Like, it wasn't that like glowy orb. It was actually something different. And I don't know if that's actually an icon for it, or if it's just like the visual representation of Siri.
On this iPhone 14 that does not have Apple Intelligence, it's just a normal orb. Yeah, you don't. So that Siri is still not. It's not there yet. All right, I got one more lightning round on, and if you have one more, and then we'll close it out. But iPadOS, which unfortunately we did not see a lot of updates to iPadOS. Let's be honest, that's a little unfortunate. But SharePlay, you'll be able to not only mark up another person's iPad screen remotely, like over a FaceTime call.
Oh, yeah.
But even control another person's iPad using SharePlay remotely. Huge feature, especially if you're helping your parents or grandparents use their iPad, the ability to actually control it. I'll be doing this all the time, like with my mom and her iPad. That's a thumbs up. That's awesome.
Yep. Okay, my last one, we got like 3 minutes left, is speaking of things that got Sherlocked. The app I use every single day is Otter. I use it all the time. I use it to record meetings that I'm in. Like if I'm interviewing somebody, the first thing, I don't know if I should say this in this room, the first thing I did after the keynote is I downloaded it, turned it into audio, and put it into there so that I would just be, because listen, I can't rewatch the whole thing, but I can read for different things, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm doing and now you can do it all in Notes. Like the transcribe feature in Notes is like, that's going to save me a couple $100s a year because I'm not going to have to pay for Otter anymore. Although I literally just renewed for a year like last week. Steven, I'm so mad about it. I'm not going to talk about it anyway. But I think that's great. Like Notes is such a great app, right? It is such a useful app on all of the devices. And the fact that you'll now be able to like drop audio into it and have it transcribed or just record like the same thing I'm doing in Otter, I can now do that on my devices. So yeah, that's great.
Right. The transcription, I'm really curious about to see how long you'll be able to transcribe something, because that's been previously, like I've used the shortcuts transcribe actions, like it would time out after a certain amount of time. So I'm going to test it out. There's even, like in the voice memos, there's a new like transcription option. I'm just looking at that now. But anyway, we'll test all this. We're going to come back on Thursday with our normal episode, go in depth even more, see what discoveries are made this week. So subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/@primarytechshow. All the episodes are there. And listen in your app. 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Also, I started adding video to our Spotify podcast. That's actually a new thing you can do with Spotify. So that's all there. Jason, thanks so much for joining. And thanks to Apple for hosting you in the Apple Podcast Studios live from the show floor.
Yes, thank you.
It's amazing. So anyway, we'll see you again Thursday. Thanks to everyone who supports the show, our members of the community. You can join that social.primarytech.fm, and we'll catch you next time.